Alrighty, good morning everyone, Goblinu with another build video. Let's just get into it. Whoops. So as you can see, there's just some rough stats, but anyways, this is my build for a hybrid slash mag slash Templar, whatever you want to call it. With race, or Imperial. These are my attributes: 18 magic, 35 health, 11 stamina. Like I discussed in the last video, like having a higher health pool. Could drop this to like 32k if you want. Bring these up a little bit. But anyways, we are stage 3 vamp. We're running Jewels of Misrule. And that's pretty much it for this section. Let's go ahead and just get into the sets. So for my first set, my monster gear, I'm running Roksa. Overall, just great sustain, and I think a bare minimum for this build. You can try with another monster gear, but we're not going to have anywhere near the sustain that you need to run this, so I suggest just keeping this on. We're running a heavy in-pen helmet and a light sturdy shoulder. This doesn't need to be sturdy, you can make it whatever you want. I just don't have the transmutes to change it right now, so I'm leaving it that sturdy. For our next set, or our one piece of trainee, of course, this is a heavy reinforced. This just brings our max health up a little bit. Our next 5-piece set, I should say, is Olorimes. This is just a great set for Templar in general. I believe I'm running one body piece in pen, 2 jewelry, 1 swift necklace, and 1 infused ring. All weapon and spell damage and chance on the jewelry. And then I'm running the back bar Resto staff defending with the weapon damage enchant. You could run ice staff, but I like running Resto. Ice staff will let you block more and mitigate more, but depending on how you set your skills up, you're gonna get more healing out of Resto. And the way I play with my 2 friends, this works well with putting rapid regen on. But like I said, you could run ice staff if you have it. I just don't have it, so I run Resto. I also I experienced running 2H on the back bar, Olorimes, but we'll get into that later when I talk about the skill setup, because there's a few different ways that I like to run this. Anyways, so that is our first 5-piece set, is Olorimes. Our next 5-piece set is Mechanical Acuity. I think by far this is the best damage set that you can get on Templar. It does have quite a bit of a cooldown, but I think overall it just works the best. You gain so much damage out of this. I've tried literally every other set, and as much as I really don't like this set, I do have to say that it's probably the best for damage that I've tested. So we're running 2 medium, both in pen. You could, if you had someone in your group that ran Rallying Cry, you could probably get rid of some of these in pen traits for other stuff like Well Fitted or something, or Divines, but since I do solo or play in a 2 or 3 man group most of the time, I just like keeping them in pen. And then we are running reinforced legs. So overall, that's everything on the body. And I'm running 2 sharpened axes of Mechanical Acuity on my front bar. For the Mythic, it's Markin, infused with a weapon and spell damage enchant. Overall, these sets just work really well with Blar, and I'll show you why here. So as soon as I get into combat and I put down any one of these circles here, wait for the cooldown to go off of it. I think it has a small cooldown when you have to place it. Yeah, so you can do it every 10 seconds. So you could pretty much have this buff open on cooldown. And you see it centers at any circle that I have here. And what that does is it gives you the Major Courage, which you can get this from Sea Serpents, but like I discussed in the previous video, I don't like how much Sea Serpent slows me down. This is relatively a quick build, and I don't like that Sea Serpents kind of dumbs that down. It's probably the best for damage, but overall, I think this just works in my group comp extremely well. They know that they can just run in to the center of this at any time, and now my team has Major Courage. It's literally perfect. But anyways, and then what's so great about Mechanical is that jabs hit so often. You can proc Mechanical super fast. I already have 4 stacks. So it's just really nice having Mechanical Acuity on. You get so much damage out of it. You hit upwards of 105% spell crit. If I took Evil Hunter off, which I've experimented with, you can get that 5th stack out of Mechanical Acuity because it builds 5 stacks. But usually with this setup, you're only going to see it get to 4 stacks. What's nice about, though, potentially building that 5th stack is that you're gaining more time out of the set. So, as you can see, my base crit chance is 25.4. So in essence, I'm kind of already at 1 stack, you could say. I'm kind of eliminating the ability to gain 1 stack, and that can be good or bad. I think it just depends on how you like to play it. I did not want to take Evil Hunter off my bar, just due to the fact that you can get so much free damage out of it. So it was kind of like, well, do we want more time on Mechanical, or do we want Evil Hunter to be there? And I sided with Evil Hunter for the most part, but anyways, let's just go ahead and get into the skills. Running Biting Jabs. The reason I'm running this one and not the Magicka morph is that I'm not running any source of Major Brutality or Sorcery anywhere else on my bar, so this is what it's going to be, and it's also our spammable. Camo Hunter. Enough said. You're going to get your Fighters Guild passives out of here. It's going to boost your thing by 6% if you run this exact setup. Gives you crit, and you gain crit damage from the flank, minor berserk. So, anyways, Solar Barrage is my next skill that I'm running. I used to run Rending here, and while I did like that, I feel like it really wasn't doing much for me. So I spoke with a friend of mine, and we were kind of looking at skills, and he reminded me that this actually does 5% increased damage on your class abilities for 22 seconds. Not only that, it's like a decent little AoE, so it's kind of whatever. You're really not using this for your damage. I'm just using it for the 5% on the class abilities. And it works pretty well. It's going to make your Radiants hit harder, your jabs hit harder, and Radiant and jabs already hit really solid with Mechanical, so we're just buffing that a little bit more. This was part of the reason why I was kind of trying to take Evil Hunter off, because I was trying to see how far I could push my damage done. But in the end, it seemed like this was the most optimal setup due to the consistency of being able to have these two up. Like I tried 2H back bar with Wrecking Blow to get major, I think major, what is it? Major Berserk, yeah, 10%. And if I did that, I could get 2% more extra compared to running Evil Hunter. But it just, I don't know, it was too inconsistent. And so I'd rather take the 2% but have it consistently work than take, 10% here and have it only work when I hit a Wrecking Blow or Dizzy Swing, whatever it is. Next skill, Resolving Vigor. Self-explanatory. You get minor resolve out of it, and you get a good heal. Radiant Oppression is our execute, and this is gonna hit pretty damn hard when you got mechanical at full stacks on somebody. Dawnbreaker, smiting for our ult. Self-explanatory. Like I said, just go back to the Dawnbreaker passives. This is the only CC I have, so I time it well with my combo and my mechanical acuity. You could do this. You could put this here, and when I'm in a 3-man group with me and my 2 friends, I actually do run this instead because it ticks so much harder with mechanical than Dawnbreaker does. So it's really nice. It also pulses to enemies around you. So overall, Dawnbreaker does more damage, but I think this is just a really good option. It costs less ult. You can keep ults up more often, and when you have mechanical hitting, full stacks with this, your jabs, I mean, it's just insane. It's great damage. But the reason I run this instead of Dawnbreaker is that in my 3-man, we only have one guy that's running CCs, and he is a Mag Sorg, and he does a Streak Meteor combo. So that's why we don't run, or I don't run Dawnbreaker anymore when I play in that small 3-man setup, is because we pretty much rely on him to CC. I don't know, we just have a good group comp, and we kind of all just sync up, so it makes sense for him to run the only CC, because we're kind of on the lookout for his Meteor combo anyways, and he kind of keeps an eye out for when we can CC, or when he needs to CC. Anyways, back bar, race against time. It's going to give us 10% more crit damage and give us 30% movement speed. It also does snare immunity. Like I said, this is why I don't run Sea Serpents, because with just that one Swift and what we run in CP, we are extremely fast. I mean, 90% of the time, Stam Sorgs can't even keep up with me, you know. Most of the players that I end up fighting against, they're not that quick, and this helps super well, especially when you're doing 1vX or 2vX and you're kiting 5, 6, 7, 8-man groups, you know, and you're in a tower. That's why I don't run Sea Serpents, because in those scenarios, it's just going to get you killed. Next skill, we have Living Dark. Basically, whenever you get damage, direct damage against you, you're going to heal whenever they hit you. Like I said earlier, you could go Rapid Regen here instead, and sometimes I do. If I'm running my 3-man group, I'll probably run this because it gives more support to my team. Overall, it's a good heal, but solo, probably going to go with Living Dark. It's a little more selfish. Rapid Regen works really well, though, and even if you didn't want to run this, you can still run Rapid Regen solo. What works really well is some of these passes. Increase healing with Resto spells. Fully charged heavy attacks give you 30% more magic, which is going to be anyways, even if you don't run Rapid Regen. But just some of these 2 passives are just so good. So that's why I like running Resto on the back bar. It's kind of slept on right now, but it's worked very well, and to an extent, I like it more than running Ice Staff. And I'm not really in a rush to get the Ice Staff right now, because I already have a guy in my group that runs Elementals, so it's kind of just a waste of slots for me if I were to put Ice Staff and then run Elemental here. Solo, it would make sense, but I usually run in a 2 or 3-man, like I said, so anyways. Next skill is Honor the Dead. I did go with Breath of Life, which heals you and I think 1 or 2 more people. And I found that it was too much on the sustain for magic. It is more healing for your group, but I think what's really good about this is you get a lot of that magic back. And since we're Imperial, we're all about trying to keep the cost of things low. And so overall, I like Honor the Dead the most. Next skill is Restoring Focus. We run this instead of the magic version. This gives us increased healing while we're in the room. The magic version gives the buff for longer. A lot of the reason we're running this is because since jabs is our main spammable here, and I dodge roll a lot, the extra 242 stam every 1 second is very good. That comes out to almost 500 stamina recovery alone. So if you ran magic jabs instead, then I would say, you could probably put the magic version on here. But I prefer the stamina version for my team, for how I'm set up. This is just what works for me. Next is Extended Ritual. Your cleanse. It's just such a huge saving grace in this meta right now, because all these dots, everything that people are putting on you, all these negative effects, it's good to just cleanse it off of you whenever you want. It's got a huge radius, and in my team, they can activate its energy, cleanse all the effects off themselves. It's just too good not to have on. For our back bar ulti, we're running Undo or Temporal Guard, mostly just for the minor protection. But anyways, I'll show you a different setup that I had here really quick, since I mentioned it earlier, where I ran 2H on the back bar, and it basically looks the same, except instead of running Resto, we obviously run 2H and put Rally here. What that allows us to do is essentially just slot the magic version of jabs, and then you have Rally here on the back bar for your major spell buff. The only real reason I think I did this was just because there's a passive where you can get minor sorcery, I think, somewhere in here. And, the magic tooltip will hit harder. Your spell damage stat will be higher. But I think it's one of these. Yeah, so you get minor sorcery. Plus it heals you if you run the magic version, which is super nice to be able to heal while you're doing damage on your front bar. But yeah, that would be kind of a optional setup you could run. I played with it for a long time. I actually really do like it, but I think Resto just has better utility for how my team and I like to play. So I keep Resto on, and if I ever get low on resources, I can just do one heavy attack and we're call it good. Actually, I'll show you what that looks like right now. People say the Ice Staff is good for getting resources back. Resto, I think, is even a little bit better. You get 2 and almost get your full resources back. I mean, you take that and a potion, you're already at full resources. So. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it for skills. Like I said, you could, if you wanted to, you could put Power of the Light here instead. Gain minor fracture. I mean, it really depends. It's up to you. Like I said, this is a comp that I run 2 or 3vX, so some of my skills are what they are because my team is already running certain things. I run with a guy who already does minor fracture and or minor, yeah, what do they call it? Whatever this gives you. Breach. Yeah, I already run with a guy who gives major and minor breach, so there's not really a point for me to run it here. But if you were going solo, you could definitely put Power of the Light here. There's a lot of things that you can do differently. This I found to be the most optimal setup for me. Solo, Power of the Light could probably go here and maybe do a little bit better. But yeah, anyways, let's just get into the CP. I'll just go to the red tree first. We're running Celerity. Like I said earlier, this on top of our Swift Jewelry, on top of Race Against Time, is going to make us super fast. So this is kind of a speedy build. It's a lot of healing. We don't do a lot of blocking. But next CP is Pain's Refuge. pretty good overall. Survival instincts, same thing. Cost reduction, status effect, and then we're running sustained by suffering. This overall I found to be the most general CP that I like to run across all my characters, but on here it just works so well. I could probably take something else off. Like you could maybe take celerity off if you really didn't want to do a lot of speedy stuff. If you had an ice staff of Olorimes and then run something else here and do more blocking, but like I said, I do a lot of kiting, a fair amount of blocking too, but you know, it kind of just depends on the day. But yeah, that's my CP for the red tree. And for the blue tree, we have Fighting Finesse, increase crit damage by 4% per stage, so we get a total of 8% out of this. And this works super well with Mechanical Acuity because we're all about getting our crit damage as high as possible. I think, I want to say we hit 55% in Cyrodiil. Okay, yeah, so we're at 55% crit bonus. So with Mechanical, obviously, you're trying to make sure that those crits hit hard. When you're critting 100% of the time, that's all you care about is how hard the crits hit. For our next CP, we're running Focused Mending, which is right here. Just gives us some more healing done. So if you're running solo, you won't have Rallying Cry, obviously, if you're running this setup. And you may have to run all in pen on your gear. Now, my crit resist was probably 1900. You could take this off if you wanted to, if you're going to run this solo. And you could put the crit resist points here instead. This will give you a pretty solid crit resist if you run this in, you know, like mostly in pen. I do that sometimes, but I have a guy that runs Rallying Cry in my group, so I'm not too concerned about having the crit resist here. Now, it does get me killed a lot when I find myself alone and I'm fighting, you know, like 2 or 3 Nightblades. Not having that Rallying Cry teammate with me kind of sucks. So if I go solo, you know, sometimes I will put this on and take Focused Mending off, but for the most part I usually have this here. For the next one, we're running Master at Arms. Increase your damage with direct damage attacks by 3%. This will be your jabs. I think it's going to be your Radiant as well, to up to a certain point. I think like the initial hit, but I know it's guaranteed to be your jabs. So we want to buff those jabs as much as possible since it's our main spammable. When Mechanical's up, we want them to hit hard as hell. And then we're running Deadly Aim, mostly running this for Radiant. You could... I don't know if Radiant gets buffed by this. I think it might, but you know, in any case, we have single target attacks here. Radiant's a single target attack. And I think this buffs the non-AoE portion of your jabs. I think there's 2 separate portions of jabs, how it works. You have the single target version, and then you have like the part where it does additional damage to nearby enemies. I think those 2 things get calculated separately. So if I had room, I think you could do 3 here with Biting Aura, and then I think when nearby enemies take damage, this would buff the nearby enemies portion, but not the initial person that's being hit. I think this buffs the initial person, from my understanding. I could be wrong on that, but in any case, we're running it anyways because of Radiant. When we get someone low, we want that Radiant to hit super hard. So overall, that's pretty much it. Really don't think there's anything left to go over. Actually, there is one thing. So I was running for a little while. This is optional as well. I was running for a little while. I was running Sword and Board. And the reason I was running Sword and Board was because at the time I was doing a lot of solo. I don't have the passives here, but you could run Sword and Board backbar Olorimes if you wanted to. It would be similar to running 2H. I would keep this here, obviously, for your spell power buff. But if you're running this solo, this could be a really good way of getting the extra penetration that you don't get from running in a group. If you're solo, this could be a really good alternative to, get your penetration up, so to speak. And it would just look something like this. Hit it with a fracture. And then, your penetration's a lot more. We're already at 6k, so if we ran this on top, what is that, 15k penetration? So overall, you could do that if you wanted to. I meant to mention that earlier, but I forgot. I think for now, I'll probably just stick with running it backbar Resto. I think this is probably more useful for 1vX scenarios, but if you wanted to drop someone quick, I think probably the highest damage setup you would get is Olorimes backbar Sword and Board running Puncture, because you're just going to get so much more penetration out of that. But all in all, I mean, you can tweak with it how you want. This is just my general setup. This is how I like running it. It works extremely well for me. You could probably tweak with some traits here, but all in all, I've had nothing but success with it. I'll have to upload some gameplay here. This is a relatively new setup, so I don't have a whole lot of gameplay. I only really play on the weekends, and so my time to upload gameplay is like very limited compared to me playing during the week. I don't really play during the week, and if I do, it's usually trying to get transmute stones or something like that. But I'll have to post some gameplay maybe in a week or two after I can have a little bit more playtime. Right now, I only have a couple clips, and yeah. So, anyways, this is pretty much it for the build video. If you guys have any questions or want any tips or ask about any certain piece of gear set, just feel free to leave it down in the comments. I'll try to do my best to answer any questions or give you any advice on Templar or talk about any gear too. I'm always down to test out new sets. I've pretty much tried everything on Templar, it feels like, and mechanical acuity seems to be the best for damage, and I like Olorimes the best for my support type set. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and we will see you guys around.